I can get used to this. I just want to celebrate another game they're winning. I just want to celebrate. Sens win 6-2 over the New York Rangers. How are the young guys now? I finally did it! I scored again! Quit taking penalties! The Sens are gonna blow this game. Way to tie up the stick in front. Not. Well done. Just well done. You better believe we're gonna be having a penalty chat at the end of this one. What a time to be alive! What a long and brutal season that was. This team, man! I know, the Sens won, they're no longer last, they don't have the best odds of the draft lottery anymore, but who cares? That was so much fun. What a destruction by the Sens. They absolutely ran the Rangers out of the building from start to finish. Well, no, not quite from start to finish. More like from 10 minutes of the first period to finish. But we'll get more into that later. As always, let's kick things off with lineup changes. The Sens made a trio of changes, including one in goal, where with the Sens on the first night of a back-to-back, they elected to start Anders Nilsson in place of Craig Anderson. And up front, with Scott Sabourin obviously still dealing with his injuries, he didn't play, but the news is good, as he is back in Ottawa and has started to recover. Logan Brown was also out of the lineup, as he is listed week to week with an upper body injury. It's a tough break for both of those two to be out of the lineup, and especially for Brown, who's looked really good since being called up from Belleville. But with those two out of the lineup, it gives a couple of older guys a chance to get back into the lineup, as Bobby Ryan returns after sitting out the last 2 games, and Mikhail Bodker draws into the lineup for just his 4th game of the season. Unfortunately for the Sens, the lineup changes don't make a hill of beans difference in the early going. The Sens come out in the first period and absolutely are nowhere. They get outshot 11-1 early on and give up the game's first goal. The Sens lose a battle in their own zone, then Nick Paul loses a foot race to a loose puck, Fox gets there first, he fires one on goal, Kakko tips it in front, it beats Nilsson, and it's 1-0 Rangers. We'll get to the goal in a second, but let's take a minute to appreciate that name. Kaapo Kakko! He's a Ranger, so I don't love the player, but I love that name, Kaapo Kakko! As for the goal itself though, just Ottawa being Ottawa on Ottawa's end. Lost battle, lost foot race, not boxing out in front. It's all the same things we've been dealing with since last season. The Rangers keep pouring it on the Sens, until a Mark Borowiecki fight seems to turn the momentum in the Sens' favor. That fight was the second fight of the night, as JC Beaudoin fought Anthony DeAngelo earlier in the period. I know these two teams have played each other twice in the playoffs over the last decade, but what is going on? 2 fights in the first 14 minutes? And finally, and I mean finally, with 8.5 minutes left in the first period, the Sens get their first shot. From then on, it was like a totally different team though. The shots were 11-0 or 11-1 depending on who you ask for the Rangers early on. From that point on, Ottawa outshot New York either 13 or 14-0. And with just over 5 minutes left in the first period, the Sens' makeshift top line of Pajot, Duclair, and Tkachuk go to work and finally get the Sens on the board. Pajot wins the faceoff back to Duclair. He cuts across the top of the circle and fires a shot on goal. It gets blocked. Tkachuk goes hard to the net and ties at the defender. Duclair then picks up the puck, goes behind the net and tries the wraparound. He can't get it to go. Tkachuk ties up 2 guys in front. Pajot jams home the rebound, and just like that, we're tied at 1. Pajot! 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 Pajot and Tkachuk. 2 names you're going to be hearing plenty of for the rest of the video, teamed up on this one, and what a great goal it was. You've got to give Tkachuk a ton of credit. First of all, for tying up the defenseman and making him a little confused. That allowed Duclair to pick up the puck. And then suddenly in front, he shoved the defenseman just far enough out of the way that it gave Pajot enough of a lane to get his stick on the puck. And then of course Pajot, the little water bug, goes hard to the net, fights through a stick check, and jams it home. But the Sens weren't done there. They get a late power play and actually take advantage, thanks in large part to a 5-on-3. Chabot slaps the shot on goal. It gets blocked. The puck trickles across the ice to Ennis. He's got a wide open net. He puts it in the net, and the Sens lead 2-1. Lucky bounce. But as Sens fans, we'll take it. Especially with how Ottawa's power play has been going. And speaking of Ottawa's power play, there was one thing on this power play that really concerned me. This goes for basically every Sens power play, and not just this one. But one thing that's really concerning to me, and it showed on this goal, was it seems like the only guy who can carry the puck into the offensive zone is Thomas Chabot. That's a recipe for failure because the other teams are just going to key in on Chabot and say, you can't bring the puck into the zone, and if nobody else can either, Ottawa's just going to spend all night every night chasing the puck back into their own end. Fortunately on this play, it worked, and the Sens lead 2-1. That goal gives the Sens their first lead of the night, and their last one, as they keep pressing for more, but can't find the back of the net, and head to the first intermission with a 2-1 lead. Like I said, the shot started 11-1 or 11-0 for the Rangers, and ended 14-11 for the Sens. Let's have more of the second half of the first period, and less of the first half. Barely 4 minutes into the second period, with the Sens power play expiring, Nemesnikov feeds Tkachuk down low. He does a quick spin around, no-look backhand pass to Ron Hainsey backdoor. He taps one into a wide open net, and it's 3-1 Sens. You want to know how unreal a pass it was from Tkachuk to Hainsey? Hainsey didn't even celebrate the goal. He just looked at Tkachuk like, "Oh, you filthy boy." Tkachuk starts laughing at him like, "Oh, we got him good. Attaboy, Hainsey. That's a nice first of the year." But Ron Hainsey does the second intermission interview and clears the air. He was asked about his first goal of the year and was quick to correct Brent Wallace in saying that was actually his second. He doesn't care what the league says. His first goal came in the first game of the season against the Leafs. Well, no, Ronnie boy. You still only have one goal this season. But if you want to count the goal against the Leafs, I'll count it. As for Tkachuk, the boy wonder is just getting started. But before Tkachuk can do any more damage, it's his line mate who finds the back of the net. The Sens are absolutely hemmed in their own zone, but Pajot blocks a Buchnevich shot, races back the other way on a breakaway, Roos went over the glove of Georgiev, and it's 4-1 Sens. One more time! Pajot! 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 This was a huge goal for the Sens. They were absolutely hemmed in their own zone, and it looked like they were about to turn a 3-1 lead into a 3-2 lead. Instead, Pajot blocks a shot, races all the way down the ice, and it's 4-1 Sens. These are the kinds of goals the Sens usually give up. It's so nice to be on the other side of it for once. And then, the boy wonder is back. Duclair fires a shot that goes over the net. He wins a puck battle behind the goal, puts the puck in front. Tkachuk goes hard to the net, bangs one by Georgiev, and it's 5-1 Sens. Not that I ever really doubted this decision, but I am so glad they kept the pick for Tkachuk and gave up last year's pick. Brady is a beast, and he really beasted and feasted on the Rangers in this one. Unfortunately though, the Sens continue to run into penalty trouble, and before the end of the period, the Rangers cut into the lead. Panarin is left wide open on a Rangers power play. He takes a couple strides in, roofs one by Nilsson, and it's 5-2 Sens. If you keep taking penalties, and you keep giving Panarin all day to shoot the puck, he's going to score. Did on this one, and the Sens lead is all of a sudden down to 3. The Rangers continue to press, but Nilsson is equal to the task each and every time, and we head to the second intermission, with Ottawa still in front 5-2. It was an awful way for the Sens to end the second period, but they managed to get to the break with the lead. Now the key is going to be the first few minutes of the third. If they give up another goal to the Rangers early in the third, this game might be over for Ottawa. Thankfully, the first few minutes of the third are pretty good from the Sens. They're able to keep the Rangers out of the net, and they can cruise to a victory. But not before they add one more. About 5.5 minutes into the third period, another Sens block shot leads to another odd man rush. Connor Brown and Nemesnikov try to play pitch and catch. Brown's pass to Nemesnikov doesn't get there. The puck goes behind the net. Brown goes and gets it, passes it in front to Nemesnikov. He one-times one by Georgiev, and it's 6-2 Ottawa. Ottawa used to have a goal song for Danny Heatley when he scored, and it would go something like, "The heat is on." Well, tonight, the road is on. And speaking of Danny Heatley, the 6 Ottawa Senators goals are tied for the most at Madison Square Garden with the 2007 Ottawa Senators when they scored 6 against the Rangers in January of the same year they went to the Cup final. And hearing that, I can't help but think, man, I miss that pizza line. And while I might miss the pizza line, I wouldn't have missed much if I had gone to bed after that goal, as the Sens roll to victory and pick up a 6-2 win. It might not have been a perfect effort from the Sens, but they routed the Rangers, and that was so nice to see. It's not very often Ottawa fans can enjoy one of those games where they can kind of just sit back and relax. Usually they're either getting hammered or are barely winning. Having Ottawa win by a comfortable margin was a welcome change. Again, it was far from perfect, but a win's a win. As always though, let's get into good news, bad news. Ottawa was sacrificing the body all over the ice last night, and that is the good news. 2 of Ottawa's goals could be directly linked to a shot block. Then late in the third period of a 6-2 hockey game, Tyler Ennis sprawls out and blocks a shot. If I'm not mistaken, the Sens finished the game last night with 17 shot blocks. And while you could argue that that's 17 extra shots at the goal, the fact is the Sens were willing and able to get their bodies in front of it and keep them away from their netminder. It goes to show how much Ottawa cared about last night's game. Even with a 6-2 lead late in the third period, Tyler Ennis is still blocking shots. Ottawa needs those kind of efforts from everybody. They got it in this one, and that is the good news. Now, for the bad news. Ottawa's start was atrocious, and that is the bad news. They got absolutely run out of the building in the first 10 or 12 minutes or so, and if it wasn't for a fight, they might have all night long. Yes, it was pretty impressive that Ottawa was able to come back and at least withstand the early barrage, but it was very concerning that they were barraged so bad early on. It really felt like one of those nights where Ottawa might never get the puck out of their own zone. Yeah, they got lucky last night, but they're not going to in the future, so they need to fix those up. Yes, they were able to at least clean up their play after about 10 or 12 minutes, but their start was awful, and that is the bad news. Next up, the Sens get a chance to fix their poor starts tonight when they visit the New York Islanders. The contest will be the second of the season between the two teams, after the Islanders picked up a 4-2 win in Ottawa just a week and a half ago. And to make matters even worse, the Islanders come into the game 10-3 on the season and have won 9 games in a row. Ottawa's playing a red-hot team, and Ottawa's on the second half of a back-to-back. Yippee-ki-yay. Something tells me this is really not going to go well. That does it for this video though. Hit like if you liked it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share it with your friends, and today's question is, with Jean-Gabriel being by far the Sens' best player so far this season, do you think it makes it more or less likely that he gets traded? On the one hand, with how well he's been playing and how big a contributor he is of this team, wouldn't it make sense that you lock him up long term? But on the other hand, with how unreal he's playing, his value may never be higher. So do you sell high and get assets now? Let me know what you think down below. And we'll see you later tonight when the Sens visit the New York Islanders.